Most of the time when you're about to join college, you usually have our lives planned out. You think of joining the university when you're 18. By the time you're 22, you'll be done. By the time you're 23 or 24, you'll have a job. By the time you're 26, you'll be married. By the time you're 27, you'll have your firstborn. And you're 28, 29, you'll have your secondborn. So most of us usually have our life kind of planned. But then the sad thing, when you get out here, things don't happen the way you plan. Things turn around and you'll get that you're 28 or 29, no child, no job, not even a boyfriend. And that is why we have so many postgraduates who are getting into depression. But the sad thing is most of them usually don't know that they are getting into depression. Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lois Odor. And so as we continue this video, if you're someone who was done with college or university, make sure that you comment down below and tell us your own experience when it comes to life after college, because I know so many people really want to know how life after college usually is. And before I do that, make sure that you like this video, and if you haven't subscribed, please make sure that you subscribe to this video so that you don't miss any other episode whenever we post it. So most of the time when you're in college, no one usually tells us this. Like even in school, no one tells us about life after college, because I think most of the lecturers and most of the people in our society, they usually assume that when you're done with university and you get that grade and you graduate, you'll immediately get a job, you'll immediately start a family. Like so many people like assuming that fact, and yet that is not the thing that happens in so many people's lives. Especially nowadays, it's so hard for you to get to some point, because nowadays almost everyone goes to school, nowadays everyone goes to the university, so it's become so competitive. And so I think the society should have taught us of other ways of doing things, that if something that you didn't study for doesn't go the way that you expected it to go, what is the thing that you should be doing next? But the sad thing is that the same society that does not tell us anything is the same society that puts pressure on us with all these expectations. Like I have so many friends who are getting into depression and stress only because of what is being expected from them. Like because they took you to the university and the society usually assumes they did that as a community. So when you get back to the village after you are done with your, let's say that course that you are doing, they expect you to come back with a job, rich, with like you have money to give to them, a job, rich, a child, and a rich professor as a husband. And that is something that is so rare. It doesn't happen to everyone's life. So because of this expectation, so many people are under pressure and so many people are getting into depression. But the sad thing is that they don't know they are getting into depression. The other thing is that so many people are still expecting to do what they studied. Like they cannot lower their levels. Man, I went to law school. How can I work in a supermarket? Like I went to, like people can't lower their levels only because I did this. That is the only thing I'm going to practice. But what so many people still don't realize is that nowadays it's so competitive. It's not like, you know, before so many, like a few people used to go to college and then you'll always get a job because the competition wasn't so tight. Like nowadays the competition is so tight. Like I can say even almost 80% of people usually go to colleges and universities so that they can get a job. So that means you're not the only one. Man, you're not the only one who has gone to school. You're not the only one who is looking for a job. The competition is so tight. Like people will graduate, thousands of people graduate on the same course each and every year, and you wonder where are these people going to fit in. It becomes so competitive. So that means that you should be able to be flexible. Don't be rigid. Like if you get an opportunity somewhere, just start from that place, because it is not always sure that you'll work at a place where you studied. Like I've seen so many people who have studied a different thing, but they are working at a different place. Like you should get that. That is usually like the normal nowadays. And so because of all this stress, you might end up getting into depression. And yet so many people don't usually realize that they've gotten into depression because of all the assumptions that you usually have about someone being depressed. Like I've met so many people think that someone who is depressed, they look thin because they don't eat, they'll not sleep, they look lonely. But at times we have people in depression but they don't have the similar symptoms. We have people who are depressed and yet they sleep a lot, they eat a lot, they've gained weight, and yet you'll end up thinking that, oh, I'm having a good life. If I can sleep for all those hours, if I can eat and gain weight this much, like I'm really having a good life. Yet you're depressed. So that means that depression is not all about just like having loneliness and not eating. Like, people usually have presumed definition of a depression, but and yet it is not that. Like, it can come out in so many different symptoms. And for me, depression is usually like a change in how you usually do things in such a way that it ends up affecting your daily life. Like, it ends up affecting how you're functioning. Like, even if you're going to sleep for all those hours, if that is not your normal thing, then that can be a sign. You get me? And some things like being negative, you know, I've seen so many negative people, especially for me. If you come to me with any negative like kind of energy, I usually just tell you you're depressed, because if you can't be happy for what other people are in life, and you always feel like everyone, whenever they're doing something good with their lives, it makes you angry, then that means you're not okay. So things like being negative and getting into drug abuse, like there's so many things that people are doing out here that are signs of depression, and yet they don't know about it. And so, do you ever feel like a failure? Do you ever feel like you're not going to make it in this life? Because I've known so many people that have just taken their CVs to so many offices here in Nairobi, but the only thing they keep on telling you each and every time you drop that CV is that we'll get back to you in a week, or we'll get back to you in 2 days, and no one ever gets back to you. Does that ever make you feel like a failure? Does that ever make you feel like you're not worth it? Another thing is that at times you'll go back home, let's say back to the village, and then because of all those expectations from the society, they see you jobless. Does that ever make you feel like a failure? So because of all these things, for me, I usually just feel so sad when I see so many people getting into depression and drugs, because they feel like they don't have any other option, especially now that we are getting into the campaign season. Like, I'm really fearing for the youths, because I know so many people are going to waste their lives, and even it can even lead them to death, only because they're trying to bring something out, and yet no one will hear them. Like, people don't even care about the life of the youths. But today, I know maybe you don't have an option, but today I just like to leave you with 3 things. Number 1 is realize that you have something in you. Like, I actually love it in this century whereby people are free to do whatever they want to do. Like, people are being allowed to express themselves in terms of being creatives. We've seen so many comedians, so many artists, so many creatives coming up, and we're like, how can he or she be able to do that much work by just being a creative? So that means you can realize that there's something in you. If maybe you're not getting that job, start working on something, start working on your gift, and you might not know, maybe it can work, maybe it might not work right now, but just give it time. But even in the process of looking for that job, try and find something in you and start working on it as early as possible. Number 2 is to reach out to people. Like, this is the time that you just take your phone and scroll through all those contacts and call whoever you have to call, because at times, funnily, someone might be looking for someone to maybe work for them somewhere, but they haven't had the thought about you. Like, they haven't even thought about you that maybe you studied that thing or maybe you're good at it. But the moment you even give them a call, they can say like, I saw a vacancy somewhere. I was looking for someone to do such kind of thing. Can you do it? Like, reach out to people. Don't be scared. Like, if you know even someone who is doing something similar, like, reach out and ask them how they're doing it. Like, just be free to reach out and try things out, because the moment you are sitting down, you're not helping yourself out, because no one will come and look for you where you're seated. You get me? And then you can even do things like follow. If it is possible for you to volunteer in such a way that it doesn't cost you much, you can volunteer. Because when you do something like that, volunteering and trying to like bring yourself in, like, maybe you'll say volunteering is like forcing yourself in, like maybe there's someone who is watching you, there's someone who will see you, and then there's someone who will think of employing you. So just try and reach out, try and get yourself out here, or else no one is going to see you. And finally, number 3 is don't be selective. Only because you went to do engineering or whatever thing you want to do, that doesn't mean that you cannot bring down yourself to another level. Like, swallow that pride, and be ready to do anything. If things don't go your way, if you haven't been able to get that job for the past 5 years, swallow your pride and start from somewhere. I've seen so many people started from being employed in a very small job, and they became like, they advanced and they were promoted, and things went so well that they went to a level of opening their own, let's say the similar thing that they were doing, like opening their own business. So it all started by not being selective. Maybe you are really fighting to become that lawyer, and maybe that is something that wasn't meant for you. You might be really striving to become something else, and yet it was not meant for you. So just be ready to do something. If you feel like there's an energy that is calling you to do something, do it, because maybe that is the thing that you're meant to be. So don't be selective. Just go out there and do whatever. Like, make your hands dirty. Yeah. So guys, that was it for today. So don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to support me, and I really appreciate that. So see you in my next video. Bye bye.